Hello, welcome to Chapter 14 for Business Math called Inventory. This is Lesson 14.5, Cash Discounts EOM Dating. So we've done a couple of different kinds of dating, and the ordinary dating is when we see it like this, comma, net in 30. So this is ordinary dating, meaning you get 5% if paid in 10 days, or you pay the net, the whole bill, in 30 days. So that's ordinary dating. Now we have EOM dating. So we'll have to figure out exactly what that means down below here. And then, big reminder, make sure you are reading through the chapter. Look at the lesson, look at the examples, go through how are they using the formulas, what formulas are they using, and pay attention to the terminology, because that's going to be definitely important here. If we're not paying attention to the terminology and we don't know what EOM means, we're not going to be able to do this worksheet. And the worksheet gives you kind of a definition of what EOM means, or at least what the letters mean, but it doesn't really tell you how to apply it. The chapter does. So make sure you're paying attention to that. All right, so let's go ahead and read the summary here. Many suppliers and wholesalers use EOM, or end of month dating, when granting cash discounts. With this method of dating, your business receives a cash discount if you pay for your merchandise within a certain number of days after the end of the month. Although it is not stated, it is implied that the full amount is due 20 days after the last day for taking the discount. You calculate the discount and cash price as follows. So, like they said, it's not stated, but it's implied that the full amount is due 10 days after the last day for taking the discount. So once we know the last day for taking the discount, 20 days later, the whole thing is due. So if we don't take the discount in time, the whole bill will be due 20 days later. All right, so there's two formulas they give us here. So cash discount equals net price times the cash discount rate, and then the cash price, what we're going to pay, equals the net price, what they invoiced us for, minus the discount that we're taking, if we can take it. All right, as noted in the previous lesson, the cash price can be calculated using the complement of the cash discount rate. So remember, complement is when you take 100% and you subtract the discount rate to get the complement. And this is another percentage, because the discount will also be a percentage. So the discount is, that's what I get to take off. So if it's saying I get 5% off, when I multiply 5% by my net price, that calculates how much money I can take off the bill. If I multiply by the complement of that, that's how much I'm going to pay. So I don't have to go back and subtract again if I multiply by the complement. So again, it just kind of depends on your preference there. You have to do the subtraction and the multiplication either way. The subtraction for the complement is usually a little quicker, because it's generally pretty easy subtracting 100 from another number. But you still have to do two operations. Just kind of depends on which ones kind of are easier and make more sense for you. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the table here. So we have our kind of a really basic invoice here for a business. So we have an invoice date, April 15th for this first one. The terms, which this one says 40/10 EOM. So what this means, and this is another good example, you probably won't know what this means if you have not read the chapter. This is just kind of numbers and letters right now. So this means 4% in 10 days. So you can take a 4% discount if you paid in 10 days after the end of the month. So it's not just 10 days from the invoice now. That's what we were doing in section 4. Now it's 10 days from the end of the month. That's what EOM means. So that's why they have May 10th here. It's not 10 days after April 15th. That would have been the 25th, right, of April. But what it means is we go to the end of April, or the beginning of May, however you want to think of that, and then just go 10 days after that, which is May 10th. The last day to pay the invoice would be 20 days after we pay, or after we can take the discount. So 10 plus 20 more gives us May 30th. Then they tell us when the people paid their invoice. So this was paid on April 30th, which is definitely before May 10th. So they get to take their discount because they paid it before the terms here. So $880, I get to take 4% from that. So they want the cash discount, so we don't really want to jump into this complement that we were talking about before. We want to multiply by 4% so that we know what our cash discount is, which is $35.20. We get $35.20 off. We're going to subtract that from the $880 so that we know how much we're paying. So we're going to pay $844.80 instead of $880. All right, so you're going to do the same thing for all of these. You get to fill in the dates for these ones. So remember, you're going to the end of the month and then 10 days after that. So all of these are going to land on the 10th of the next month. So if it's May, then this is going to be June 10th. If this is September, it's going to be October 10th, January, February 10th. So we're literally just going to the next month and going 10 days for these ones is pretty consistent. And then the last day to pay the invoice, if you haven't paid it by this point, would be 20 days after that. So a lot of the time it's going to land on the 30th of the next month. All right. Or not a lot of the time. Every time in this case, as long as it's 10 days for the first piece. All right, I think I'm going to let you guys finish that one off. We're going to take a look down here. Whoop, close. All right, so the net price of goods from Computerland to the Jones LLC law firm is $28,966.40 for new computers and software. The invoice was dated May 18th and was paid June 8th. The terms on the invoice were 210 EOM. So remember that's 2% if paid in 10 days from the end of the month. What was the cash discount? So they paid it on June 8th. Remember we just go to the next month, May, June. June 10th would have been the last day to take it. So they paid it before. So we just calculate the discount just like we did up here. So we're going to take the invoice amount. And we're going to multiply by our 2% so that we know what discount do we get to take. That's part A. And then once we know what discount we get to take, we're just going to subtract that from the invoice because we don't want to pay it. We want to know what are we going to make our check out, right? Or wire transfer, whatever they're paying it with. Probably not actually cash. That's kind of a lot of money. All right, Thomas Supply sells furnace repair parts to maintenance professionals. Thomas offers a $310 EOM discount to all their clients. Saunders Plumbing and Heating just placed an order for assorted blower motors. The net price was $1,822.40. How much can Thomas Supply expect to receive if Saunders paid the invoice on the 5th of the next month? All right, so again, they're just giving you, it's more information than we need really in this story. We need to know what are the terms, we need to know what the net price is, and we need to know when they paid it. Those are really the only three things that we need to know. So, and actually in this case, because it's end of month, the EOM, we don't even need to know necessarily when the invoice date was. As long as we know they paid it with it before the 10th, because it's normally 10 days, that's what they usually give on EOM. So as long as it's before the 10th of the next month, they get their discount. The 5th is before the 10th. So we're just going to calculate the discount just like we have on all these other ones. We're going to take our 3% discount from our net price here. And then that once we have our discount amount, we're going to subtract that from the net price again here so that we have our total. And in this case, they just want the end total. They don't necessarily want it all, but definitely show your work on here so that we can kind of help you as we go through. I just noticed I have those out of order. Interesting. There's or it's, maybe it's labeled incorrectly. Page 210. Nope. Okay, it's just labeled incorrectly. All right, so let's go ahead and go to page 210 here. And the reason I'm saying it's labeled incorrectly is because we are working on section 5. But if we look at the top of this one, and this one actually looks fine, but on my answer key, it doesn't, it looks like someone corrected it here. The font looks a little funny. So on my answer key, it says 14.4. So kind of an interesting little mistake there. I just noticed it. All right, the next ones here, very similar. I'm not necessarily going to go through and do the examples on these. Again, you're looking for the net price, you're looking for your terms, when was it paid. The invoice dating is not terribly important except for the fact that you want to make sure that it was paid in the following month, so right after, within the 10 days. Like I said, normally it's 10 days. Pay attention to that though, just in case they switch it up on you. All right, let's see. Let's take a look at number 9 because they do give you a couple extra pieces here. So Auto Supply Inc. offers various trade discounts from the list price of its parts. You offered the parts, ordered the parts shown. Suppose the invoice dated April 12th carries cash terms of 210 EOM. So there's our terms, and our invoice was dated April 12th. So we know we need to pay by May 10th, right? Because April, May, and 10 days after the end of the month, May 10th. So as long as we pay by May 10th, we're good to go. But we do need to calculate a few things in here. So we want to make sure that we're looking at the trade discount. This is something that we did a few sections ago for the trade discount. So you can do it a couple of ways. You can take your first trade discount, because this is actually like a discount off of on a discount. We get 2 discounts when we do this. So the first one only has 1. So you can multiply the full amount here, because that's what this extension means. It's the quantity times the list price equals the extension. They filled that in for us, so it's not a super big deal, but just so that you understand what it means. This is how many we ordered. This is how much each of them cost. This is the total cost for that order or that item. So you can multiply the 40% times the extension and then subtract that amount, because that's your discount, from the extension to get your net price. But when we go down here to oil filters, we have 2 discounts. So we'd have to multiply by the extension, the 40%, subtract the discount, and then once we get that first net price, so like our first total from subtracting, we multiply that by 25% and subtract again. So it's kind of a double here. So this is where the complements come in, and it kind of makes it a little easier. So you can do the 100% minus your trade discount, and that will give you your complement, which is 60%. So now I can just take this $764 and multiply by 60% to get my net price here. But what happens when we have 2 of them? Now we do the same thing. So we have 100% minus, we get 60% again. I'm going to do 100, and I'm sorry, I'm running out of room here. So 100% minus the 25%, and I get 75%. So I have 2 amounts here, and I'm going to change my color a little bit. So I have this 60 and I have this 75. So I take these 2 and I multiply them together. What this does is it gives me 1%. So I end up with 45%. So what this is I'm going to pay 45% of the total invoice for this item. So if I multiply $470.40 by 45%, I'll end up with my net price. I won't have to go back and subtract and then multiply again and then subtract if I do the complement method here. So again, kind of depends on your understanding of it, how you want to do that. But there's 2 methods there. You can calculate the first discount, subtract it from the extension, and you'll have your first net price. You can multiply that by your second discount and subtract it again from your first net price so that you have your final net price. Or find the 2 complements, multiply together, and then multiply by the extension 1 time instead of having to go back and do that kind of multiple times. So we definitely want to fill this in, and then once we have it filled in, we want to add straight down so we have our total invoice. And it says use the complement method to determine the net prices and complete the table. So they want you to use the complement method in this because it is a little bit easier than the other one, but again, kind of depends on your opinion there. So what is the cash price if the bill is paid on May 5th? So that's definitely before May 10th. So we get to take our 2%. We just need to know this total price, and then we'll multiply by 2% and make sure then you subtract that 2%. So what you get here, so you're going to subtract that amount. Oop, that was a horrible box. And that amount. So you're going to subtract the two amounts so that you know this is my invoice minus the discount I get to take, and that's how much we'll pay. I know I didn't work out a whole lot of the math on that one. I kind of was trying to walk you through, give you tips on how to do that. But I hope it helped, and I will see you in section 6.